Active Directory services to it. Okay, so add a role and feature to add services. You say add a role and features. You're going to remove them after you're done. Same approach. So add, and you go to your wizard. The Windows click options. Next, role based, feature based solution. Sure. Next, and that's going to be running the services. The service is going to run on the server pool, which happens to be this server right here. Next, and then here you have the roles that you can pick from. A number of roles are up here from Active Directory certificates all the way down to Windows Server Update Services that you want to run. A number of stuff, application server, DHCP, DNX, Hyper-Vs, network policy and access services, remote desktop services, web server for Windows-based IIS, the Internet Information Services for Windows, and a host of features. But what we are interested in for this installation is more or less with the Windows domain services. So add those features. So Windows Directory Domain Services or Active Directory Domain Services. That's what we're interested in, at least for now. And then our DNS. So these two services are very essential to us right now. That's what we need to implement. So Active Directory Domain Services as well as our DNS services. So once you click on them, click next. And you do have other more features, but for now we don't need these guys. Next, next, next. And then you so restart the destination server automatically if required. Don't worry about that. Sure. So install, and then the installation of those two services will start. So first we would have the directory services started, and then and with the domain with the DNS set up, and then we finally have to promote this server to a domain controller role, which will probably be showing up over here. That we do have a role that needs to be a promotion that needs to be done on the server here as a domain controller. We'll walk through more wizards of giving the domain a name, picking a domain name, and other keys, essential options that we want to incorporate into our domain controller. Um, these don't take much time either, with the role setups. Like I said, once again, it all boils down to how much system resource you have, memory-wise, and processor speed, to get these processes or services to be up and running. If you do have enough of these resources, you shouldn't have a problem taking much time with this roles and features add-ups or setups. So let's just keep waiting. Just bear with me, folks. For now, this is just it's part of the process of installation. So it's always like I say, have patience when it comes to some of these installations, you just need to have patience with it. Don't be in a hurry, don't be in a rush, or you might end up screwing up stuff or getting some of the files corrupt in the process. So just be patient, take your time, and I guarantee everything will be done perfectly the way you would want it, and everything will function normally without any challenges or issues. Okay, so just bear with us for now, or bear with me for now, please, folks. So we have the configurations. Uh, Installation succeeded, but we're gonna need some more configurations or the promotion. So hence you see this notification here, this yellow, sorry, orange notification telling you there's other roles that you need to uh, implement, or sorry, activate. So for now, we're gonna say close, and then go to this notification and see what kind of things we need to do. So there are post deployment configurations that need to come up. Um, so it says configuration required, installation succeeded on the server, and we need to finalize the promotion. So we need to promote the server to a domain controller level. That's what you need. That happens to be the post deployment configuration. So click on it, and then we'll walk through the process of promoting this server to a domain controller level. So we're adding a domain controller to an existing domain. No, we don't have any domain yet. So it's going to be a new, or we have add a new domain to an existing forest. No, we're going to create a new forest from scratch. So that's what we're interested in. Add a new forest. And then we're going to create our root domain. So this is where you pick a domain name. For this lab, we're not going to pick it's actually a fully registered qualified domain name. We're just going to make up one. In this case, I'm going to name mine Citizen, or I'm going to use actually Open Lecture. Open Lecture. Dot institution. Yes, Open Lecture dot institution. So this is just my non-registered, qualified domain name. You can use your own. By assuming that you had a registered domain, a fully registered domain that qualifies the domain name, then you put it over here. Like for instance, you registered for maybe um, openlecturer.com or openlecturer.ac or .edu. Then you put up here, okay, to show that that's a fully qualified domain name. But since this happens to be a lab rem, we're just using some dummy domain name over here. In this case, inst, which if you go online, you realize that there's no top level domain called inst. I'm just making them up over here. But if you do have a fully qualified one on a production system, then you can use that. Okay, so next. So at this point, we would ask you to create a directory services restore mode password. So in case there's an issue and you want to restore the directory services, you can use that password to restore it. So I'm just gonna create my own password and then click next. So see, a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found. That's okay. Don't worry about this so much for now, because we don't have. I think you get this information because the domain that we created, but it's not like a registered domain name. So obviously, this delegation cannot be contacted or cannot be authenticated, or authoritative parent zones cannot be found. So don't worry about it for now. Just go click next. It's a temporary thing. Don't worry about that. And so now let's pick up the NetBIOS domain name, which will be the same as the open lecture. Next. Next again. And you look at the uh, uh, review the selections that you've already enabled or um, indicated. Review them first. And once you're satisfied with them, if you're not satisfied, you can go back and um, and change them. But once you're satisfied with whatever you have, then you click next. So now it's a prerequisite verification to see if the system actually or the option that you pick um, basically qualifies to be promoted, qualifies for this system, for this server to be promoted to a domain control level. And for now, it looks like it's okay. It says all prerequisites are checked and passed successfully. So it means you're good to go. These are just warnings that we'll come back to later. Don't worry so much about it for now. But once you see this green sign or that all the indication that says that all prerequisites are checked and passed successfully, that means you're good to go. So you can click install now. And then now you're installing and promoting the server to the domain control level. So everything looks like it's going pretty successfully, pretty good so far, without any hiccups anywhere. That's always a good thing. If you're going through this and you got to a stage where you are not getting the next or install or to proceed, then you know there's something somewhere you've not done right. And you probably have to go back and do some uh, prerequisites checks and balances first before you come back. Otherwise, it wouldn't allow you to move on. So keep that in mind. Make sure all your prerequisites are satisfied before you proceed. Or I mean, if it's not, if you don't meet the prerequisite, you can't move on anyway. So there isn't much you can really do. Okay, so we've gone through that. That's great. Now let's just close it and let the system reboot itself or restart itself to indicate that our server is in good shape. It looks good. Okay, it's rebooting. Hmm. Okay, so it's coming up. So once it comes up, now in our login will change from logging into the machine directly to actually logging into the domain instead, which is the open lecture domain. You will notice that there's logins who actually reference to the open lecture domain when it comes to the logins. And then once that is up, we'd have to make some changes at the network adapter level. I think the DNS, primary DNS on the interface with changes. So we have to fix that. And then after that, we would also have to make some modification to our IP version 6. It also has this uh, domain IP address default setup that shows up in the settings we are going to get rid of. It's supposed to be automatic. at the IP version 6 level. So we'll get rid of all those settings, and hopefully it will clean up our DNS in terms of resolutions. And then after that, we'll go into creating organization units, creating users, user profiles, um, and user account as well as password. So that can be used to authenticate users on machines that joins the domain. Okay, folks. So far everything's looking good. I'm really happy about it. We didn't come across any hiccups on the way, so it's a good sign that we're on the right path. I'm guessing it's just finalizing all those rules that we just added. So that's why it's taking a bit longer to load. So that's okay. It's fine. And just have patience, guys. That's all you need. Patience. Like I said, patience with some of these installation processes. I've seen an environment that takes even much longer than this, so we should be good with this. This so far hasn't taken that much time from what I've noticed. So, okay, so it looks like we have something going on. We are applying security policies to the systems that are coming from the roles and features that we added. Okay, so there are no other users. It's okay. So now we need to basically, this is already gone. Now we need to switch. So now we need to switch this to other users. In this case, this would have to be the administrator. If you notice, the open lecture domain shows up, and we're going to need administrator, and then the password for the administrator, and we are logging onto domain. We are logging into open lecture domain. Okay, so we are logged in as a domain admin user. And like I said, we need to change some settings at the network access level. Right click, open network and sharing center. Change your data settings. Right click, properties. And then IP version 4, properties. Yeah, you notice it changes. So we need to replace this back with the correct primary DNS, which is 192.168.1.10, or the same as the IP address of the system itself. Go to advanced, make sure the metrics are okay over here, nothing funny. Okay, and click OK. And then we go to IP version 6. You have a tendency of issuing this, which we don't want, so we need to change this to obtain DNS server address automatically instead. Okay, advance, make sure the metrics are okay over here as well. Okay, okay, and then close. All right, so that's good. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I like that. I like that so far. Okay, now let's do some checking on our DNS and DC roles that we added and see if they're working fine. So just some test run. And the command to do that is let's go to CMD, and the command to check your directory directory services configurations is on DC diagnose. So we basically domain control diagnose, enter that, and then check some of these things to see if there are any failures or any unsuccessful attempts. So far it looks like things looks pretty good. Tests have been passed. We do some minor um, stuff over here that relates to um, lightweight directory services, LDAP, and what else? But generally, what you're interested in are the passes over here. Some of these passes. So advertising passes, forest event pass, machine account. Let's log on. These are key services or pass. So that's not bad. We'll clear some of these things later as we go over the settings. Okay. Well, since we just changed the IP address of the DNS, the prime DNS, let's do a flush and re-registration. That's this the command to do that. ipconfig slash um, flush DNS. So we're flashing the old, which is the loopback IP address that we had on there, the 127.0.0.1, which is which happens to be a loopback IP address, a reserved loopback IP address. We got rid of that, so our uh, legitimate 192.168.1.10 IP address, which happens to be the correct IP address of the system of this server here. So we need to flash the old one out of the system and then do a re-registration of the new one. So register DNS. So register the new one across. So it takes about 15 minutes to all for any challenges to report it. But once this is up, that should be good. So let's give some time to refresh all of those settings. I can close this, and you want to see all this green. You don't want to see any red sign over here. Always make sure everything is green over here to indicate everything is in good shape. Okay, so now let's go to tools and you see what happens. So a lot more services are showing up now. Now you have your Active Directory users and computers showing up, and then you also do have your DNS in place. Okay, great. So now let's go to DNS and then finalize some few settings in terms of forwarding, reverse forwarding, reverse resolutions of IP address, text-based addresses, and have that set up as well. So at least you can resolve back and forth from text to IP address and vice versa. So this happens to be your DNX manager. If we go to the forward lookup zone, you notice that you do have your open lecture with all of its uh, folders created with their host types are indicated and IP address as well. So that's great. But what we're interested in is this is more or less the forward lookup. Now I want to activate the reverse lookup as well. So this will basically resolve static IP addresses or reserve IP addresses for us if we're to look up an IP address. And that's we also want to be able to look up the reverse formats for text-based as well as other forms of resolution that relates to text. And that's where the forward or the reverse lookup comes into play. So just right click on that and click new zone. Click next to work your wizard real quick. It's going to be a primary zone. Click next. We want that to affect to be, so you have three options. You have, do you want to select your zone data to replicate across all DNS servers running on domain controller in this forest? Or do you want it to be all DNS servers running on domain controller in this domain, which happens to be it? So all DNS servers running on this domain controller in this domain. So you have the forest and the domain. And then finally you have to all domain controllers in this domain. What you should be clicking on is this one right here. That's what you're interested in. To all DNS servers running on just this domain controller. We don't want it to be on the entire forest, because we might have, if we were to add a different domain within the forest, and we want that to have its own domain, then it'll be then we can say then it would be ideal to use this. So if assuming that we wanted this DNS to basically handle all resolutions that revolves around any domain controller within our larger forest, then we can go with this option. But we just want this DNS to basically handle resolution on just this domain controller, or just the open lecture.inst that we have. Okay, so this is the preferred option by default as well. So click next, and you want IP version 4 reverse lookup zones. So next, and over here you just put the IP address of the network address of your IP network. So in this case 192.168.1 happens to be your network ID that the resolution will take effect within. So which means that any device that has got an IP net address of 192.168.1, it's going to be under resolution by this DNS, or by this reverse lookup zone name, or by this reverse lookup zone within our DNS. We click next, and allow only secure dynamic updates, always recommended, and next, and then you finish. So once this is done, you pretty much have your reverse lookup, and that would allow you to basically replicate automatically all of your reverse lookup from text base. If you notice, you have the text base showing up now, as compared to your forward lookup that had that has the IP address showing up. Oh, and then one more thing, we need to indicate the pointers. Double click on some of these, and then make sure you update the pointers records automatic. Click on that, apply. Okay, this is already done. So it should be the address as well. Okay, let me see this guy. So now it will replicate automatically. Great. So now for what we just did, it just means that when any records are added, when any machines are added to the domain, it should be automatically replicated as a pointer within the reverse lookup as well. So you should show up as well over here, and within the entire lookup zones that we have for both the forwarding and reverse. Okay, so this is great. Now we can close that. Close this, and then we go to command prompt again, and then try DC diagnose again. So let me do a flash again, and then do a registration as well again. Trying to make sure our DNS is all cleaned up nicely. DC diagnose, see what comes up this time around. Okay, some things have not changed, but things will certainly come together once some of these things start following the right settings. Okay, it's not bad for now. Everything looks okay. Your system log failed. That's just for logging system records. It's not a big deal. Okay, so let's minimize this, and then let's try to create. So now let's go to our Active Directory users and computers, and then create organization units. And our users. So if Karen, if you note, if you go to computers, we don't have any computer joined to domain yet. So there's not, it's empty. But once we add the workstation 1 to it, it will show up over here.